Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How do you want to start?
Hope. I hope you are all happy and healthy.
That's really nice, Danny. I hope you are all happy and healthy too. And we are really happy to have you here with us for our second episode.
Yes, so happy to have you. It is so wonderful to have so many supportive friends.
Yeah, it really is. We really appreciate everyone's comments and emails, any kinds of messages you've been sending us. It's been so nice to know that you are enjoying being a part of this project, mainly Danny's project. So thank you.
I'm so thrilled to introduce our first guest.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun talking with her. Do you want to introduce her or should I?
You.
Okay. So our first guest is Dr. Louisa Ponnampalam, a dear friend of mine and part of the CMAM family, which is the Southeast Asia Marine Mammal Research Family. So I've been really lucky to know Louisa. Not only is she a wonderful friend, but really an inspirational leader in conservation in Southeast Asia. She is the chairperson and co-founder of the MareCet research organization, which is Malaysia's first and I think only nonprofit dedicated to marine mammal research and conservation in the whole country. She was also the first Malaysian to be awarded a Pew Fellowship in Marine Conservation. And most recently, she was recognized as one of Prestige Malaysia's 40 under 40. So a really impressive person who is getting some very well-deserved recognition. But of course, we want to make her even more famous by having her on our podcast.
Yes, exactly.
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 So, through MareCet, Louisa and her team do work on dolphins, porpoises, dugongs, and some whales, as well as the habitats of these animals. And generally, they work on engaging the public through education on marine conservation in general, as well as influencing policy in Malaysia.
Wow, she is truly a wonder woman.
She really is.
I loved talking with her so much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation too. Do you want to share anything about the interview with our viewers before we start?
Yes, I was really dysregulated because I wanted to be perfect, but it was too much pressure.
Yeah, that's really tough, isn't it, Dan? Yeah, you were so excited to speak with Louisa, and I know it was really important to you. And that ended up being a lot of pressure on yourself, which can be very dysregulating. So do you want to tell our viewers what that dysregulation meant for the interview?
Yes. You can.
Okay.
You can.
I can do that.
You say, done.
Yeah.
Done.
So what the dysregulation meant for the interview is that a lot of times Danny would just pop up out of the chair because sitting still was a bit challenging. So even though you maybe don't see him on the screen the whole time, he was listening the whole time. He was just kind of behind the computer. And anyways, he does have amazingly sharp hearing. So you'll also hear a lot of this, which is stimming. So that's kind of the reality of dysregulation for Danny, and it's something he's really working on. It's dealing with that anxiety. But we decided to show it so that people can learn more about what it's like, so that others who struggle with dysregulation kind of see it represented. Is that a fair description?
Yes. It is perfect.
Okay, good. I'm glad I did it justice. Anything else you want to say about that?
It is.
It is.
It is my biggest challenge.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
As I'm always trying to regulate. I want to say that this is a huge issue for many autistics. So the key point is that we need patience and empathy to deal with it.
Yeah, that's a really important point to share. So thank you for sharing that message. But dysregulation aside, we still had a really wonderful time talking with Louisa.
So that we did so much for me that was really about finless porpoises.
Why was that?
They are so underappreciated, yet they sound so interesting and cute.
I'm really glad to hear you say that. You're right, finless porpoises are underappreciated. They're understudied, partially because they're really difficult to study, and also they exist in parts of the world where there's just not as many resources for research. But Louisa has done a really good job convincing me that they're more interesting than I thought they once were, and I really have to thank her for that.
Yes, I'm so appreciative of her outreach and her efforts to broaden her reach to disabled people.
Yeah, I'm also really impressed with her ongoing outreach efforts, and I was really touched by her interest in being more inclusive, even more inclusive in the work that MareCet does, including engaging you in some of those efforts.
It was truly heartwarming.
Yeah.
I hope you really enjoyed this episode.
And so do I. So enjoy.
Enjoy!
The water and salt in the sea is also in you and me. The waves come and go, and we are pushed to grow. But we can see with our hearts there's more than the sum of its parts.
Let's go!
Ready to go, Danny?
Hi, Danny. How are you doing today?
Thank you. It is so amazing to see you.
Why?
Belated happy birthday.
Thank you. So, Danny, I wanted to show you my T-shirt today. Since it says "Amazing Ocean."
It is.
S-O.
It is so good. You're so inspiring.
Oh, thank you. You're inspiring, Danny. You're teaching me new things every day.
Yeah.
And Tara's inspiring too. You have such an amazing sister.
We're also inspiring. Yeah.
Did you guys go surfing today?
I did, but we went snorkeling with leopard sharks yesterday. Okay, realistically, Dan, considering everything, do you think you can do this right now?
Yes.
How many leopard sharks did you see yesterday?
All right.
How many leopard sharks did we see yesterday?
So many. Many. Wow, it's so awesome.
It was really awesome. Yeah. And Danny's snorkeling is just getting stronger and stronger.
That's awesome.
It is so exciting.
T-O.
It's so exciting.
A-L-K.
It's so exciting to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Talk with talk with you.
I'm curious about this board that Danny taps on. What does it look like on the other side?
Check it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I knew he was going to say something like secret. Yeah.
I must say, I mean, we're just a few minutes into this recording, but I just want to express, I mean, gratitude, because you're teaching me stuff and you're teaching me about empathy and humility and like an awakening.
Wow. Thank you so much to me.
A, B, E,
Thank you so much to
to
ask
ask.
you.
I have so much to ask you.
I'm ready.
First, I want to know
No.
how you how you do it.
A, L, L. First, I want to know how you do it all.
Oh, how do I do it all? With some level of craziness, I suppose. I think passion drives a lot of what I do, but I think also having a great team. So what I do is I run a marine conservation, research and conservation nonprofit NGO in Malaysia. We focus on marine mammals, so the research of marine mammals and their conservation and of their habitat. We do research, we do education and outreach, we contribute to policy, and we build capacity for the next generation of marine mammal researchers and conservation leaders here in our country. It's a lot to take on. I am first trained as a scientist, of course, but these days I do a lot of managing of the organization and running of it, while trying to still keep involved in every aspect of the work that we do. So I still try to get out in the field with the team, participate in school programs, and definitely, contribute to policy. And at the same time, trying to find some spare time here and there to pursue my other interests, which are not related to marine mammals. So things like, going for theater performances or to movies or for a hike in the jungle or cooking, or just hanging out with my dogs. How do I do it all? I think it's just a lot of hard work, kind of focusing on the goals of the greater good of what I want to achieve for my country, for the animals that I work for, I suppose. But having a really good team and always supporting them and working together as a family unit to reach our goals, our conservation goals. But definitely having supportive family, friends who are always encouraging, friends like yourself who's always also encouraging. Sometimes we get the odd random message from just a stranger saying, keep up the good work. These are little things that really just help keep us going and help make things happen. I don't always have it all under control, and I've learned that I can never have it all under control. That some things you just have to let slide. But as long as you stay true to your goals and to your mission, and remember that it's for the greater good, and you never know how your work is inspiring other people. So really, we've had just people that, they've been following our social media for a while, but they'll just drop in all of a sudden and give us a message to say, your work has helped me with this or that, or it has given me the courage to pursue my own passions. I mean, to me, that in itself is a victory. It's not even about how many protected areas we managed to secure or how many dolphins we managed to protect, but just inspiring somebody to chase after their own dreams is in itself so enriching. So that's in a big nutshell how I do it all.
There's more for this person.
Oh, thank you. I love his energy.
A, B, O,
This
T,
is about
T,
captivates,
Y-O-U.
captivates you.
Please share something about the sea that captivates you.
Wow, so many. Where do we start? I think for me, it's a given that the marine life underwater is just so beautiful, right? Creatures of all shapes and sizes. Some are, which is so odd sometimes, they're neither square nor round nor triangle. They've got little spikes or whatever. I think that's very captivating. But above and beyond that, there's just something about the ocean. There's something about the salty sea water, and being in that environment that liberates me, that I just feel free. I could be whoever I want to be in that water column. And listening to this, there's something about the sound of crashing waves as well. And there's something about watching waves roll in that just kind of rolls over your soul and your inner being, that I just find so invigorating. And I think you would understand very much, like, if after a certain period of time we didn't go to the sea, it's almost like you start getting jittery and agitated, like you just need that injection of salt water. So I don't know what it is about the sea that makes people who love it feel this way, but I think it's that feeling of liberation, that vastness. And I think to know that there are these animals. I mean, we always think, human beings, we always think that we're the superior species on this planet, but put us in water and we can't really survive, and unless you've got like scuba gear or your mask on or whatever. I think the ocean is so vast, and it reminds us that the things that have been adapted to live in the sea are so amazing. I mean, these are adaptations that we won't ever have. I mean, take for example whales, sperm whales, beaked whales, right? Since we're marine mammal people here, I mean, to be able to dive down to 2-3 kilometers and look for food while they're at it, and then come back an hour later, and be all right, right? That's just so amazing. And just to see how things are able to reproduce in the water column, or a baby turtle, they're this big when they hatch and they go out into the sea. Imagine a small little baby turtle floating through a vast ocean now that's also full of discarded fishing nets, trash floating around, and all sorts of other kinds of threats from human activities. Yet some of these baby turtles are able to survive and grow into huge adult turtles, and then return to shore to nest and repeat the whole cycle again. I think that's pretty amazing. Yeah, so I think for me, most captivating is just that liberating feeling that the ocean provides me, and the sound of waves, as well as just the adaptability of marine life, living in an environment that isn't kind most of the time. It can be a harsh environment. And marine mammals are so cool. They're so smart. The more you study them, you think, wow, how do they do that? We've got dolphins that eat catfish, but they're so smart. They only eat the body, and they leave the head of the catfish behind with this, because the head of the catfish has these really sharp spines. And they're so smart. They just know to eat the body and leave the head behind so that the spines don't get into their bellies, and start piercing the stomach walls or the esophagus. So just simple things like that. It's amazing how they've learned to do this, and then you wonder about how that skill is transmitted to the offspring. How do they teach their offspring to also select in such a way that they don't get hurt themselves?
So amazing.
What's your favorite marine animal, Danny? Do you have a favorite one?
My favorite. Probably gray. Probably gray whales.
My favorite is probably gray whales.
I've never seen gray whales. I hope I can go see them with you someday.
Yes. Come visit come visit us in the winter, and we will go play with them.
I will someday.
Why are gray whales probably your favorite?
I went to see them in the condition. Nice show, and it changed my life.
Tell me why.
Wow, looking into a whale's eye is like looking into another universe.
Wow, that's amazing. There is something about whales and dolphins, I think, that is magical. And people always ask me why I chose dolphins. I don't know. I mean, I started obsessing about them as a teenager, as a kid. And I think because they were so smart and they just seemed so energetic and carried a lot of positive energy, and um, they were um, acrobatic and gregarious. When they're at sea, if you see them on TV, they're always leaping. And of course, whales are so majestic when you think about there's this big animals living in the vast ocean, and we're just so small. I think it's nice to sometimes feel so small, to remind ourselves that we are but a drop in the ocean, and there are these other amazing beings that deserve to live on this planet, and that we all need to band together and do our part to protect their habitat. And I think that a world without dolphins would be a much sadder place. And definitely that's one of the motivating factors that keeps on pushing me to keep going, even when the going gets tough. And in talking to different people, I realize there's so many out there who love dolphins and whales just like me. I have some friends who do, but somehow they didn't get the opportunity to pursue it as a career. And in that, in itself, I feel so grateful that I have that opportunity to contribute, to chase my dreams, and to really work with these animals that I love. It doesn't just remain as an idea in my head, or I actually get to be in the field firsthand with them. So but yeah, there must be something about these animals that make people so drawn to them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, in many of my interviews with fishermen, even if the dolphins damage their nets, they say, I just like seeing them on the water. It makes me really happy. And it seems to be a fairly universal response.
Yes, it is so special to have these wondrous creatures on the planet.
Why don't you spell out a couple of questions now so I can give them to her, and then she can answer them back to back, and you can go chill. How about that?
Yes.
While you listen.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So first, tell us about a part of your work that you would like to highlight. And second, why or how inclusion is important in conservation.
Okay. Part of the work that I want to highlight.
You have so much going on. I think it's.
I think, okay, how about this? We work on marine mammals, and in Malaysia, what we do is hardly taken seriously. So, this research on marine mammals and conservation is, I think, not taken very seriously. There seems to be some level of maybe public perception that doing research on dolphins is just foo-foo. Like, it's not real research. You're just working on a bunch of animals that are fun. A lot of people don't understand the complexity of marine mammal science and the difficulty in collecting data, because these animals live entirely at sea. So we have to get out there to look for them, and it costs money. And you know as much as I do the long kind of hours that researchers put on the boat from sunrise to sunset for days in a row. So, really, this work that we do is manifold. Yes, of course, we want to understand more about the dolphins and the whales, porpoises, and the dugong with the goal that scientific information feeds into decision making for the protection of their habitat. But also, because marine mammals are so important, they're sentinels of the ocean, they indicate ocean health. They eat what we eat, for example. They're prone to diseases, they're prone to skin problems, just like we are. But it must be linked to some form of disturbance in their environment, in their habitat. So, really, they are charismatic and they act as mascots for conservation. They act as flagship for people to take note of the importance of the oceans and the seas surrounding us. And I think that besides the science, the highlight, I mean, the work that we do really is to raise the profile of these amazing animals here in our country, to tell people that this isn't just child's play, this is important. They provide us with a bridge to understanding the importance of conservation, not just to, I mean, to the general public, to kids, to the next generation of people, to government, that they're there. And even though it might not seem like their lives have anything to do with ours, especially where I am, here in Kuala Lumpur, we're not exactly right by the sea. It's a very urban setting. I think it's a bit different from Southern California, for example, where you are, because the huge swath of the Pacific coastline is right there available. It's a bit different in a sense that there isn't that kind of ocean culture here in the city, especially. So really, this work is to raise the profile of these important animals and to make people understand that we have them, that they have a lot of roles for ocean health, to sound the alarm to us about ocean health. Um, and I think the other highlight is in doing this work, we are trying to provide, when I say we, MareCet is trying to provide a platform for other young Malaysians to to live their dreams, to do this work. If you ask, the team that's under me, I've asked them before. I said, "Did you ever imagine that you would be one day doing this kind of work?" And they said no, because there wasn't a platform. They didn't believe that they could have this interest in marine mammals, but also be able to actually do it, to be in the field, to see it in the flesh, and to do it. That in itself gives a boost to people who really never thought they could do it. All they believe, it's just unless you're living in a Western country or you made it into the documentary, you would never be able to do this work, right? So I think that's another highlight. It's providing the platform. We need more people doing this work, and we have provided this platform for people to pursue that and to pursue their dreams. And being in the field teaches us so many things about independence and being resourceful, being adaptable, etc., innovative. Uh, and then, of course, bringing this information that we have gathered out in the field to the schools. We lack quite a bit of environmental education in our national school syllabus. We've run programs with school kids who live by the coast or on an island, yet they've hardly had any interaction with the sea. They didn't know there were dolphins in their backyard. They don't really go to the beach. So bringing marine mammals and all that they entail and their habitat and the conservation of it into the classroom for these kids opens up a whole different dimension that they never thought about. And we've had kids who come up to us afterwards and say, "Please come back and tell us more. I want to learn more." And we've had the opportunity to take them out to the sea to look at dolphins. And they're so amazed. And to me, just seeing that joy on their face is is a reward. And we give them on the boat, we give them a scoop net for them to scoop up any trash that's floating by the boat. And I think that simple gesture also drives home the point about the fact that whatever material we're using here on land, for example, drinking a bottle of drink contained in a plastic bottle that you then throw away, that ends up in the sea, that ends up in dolphin habitat, whale habitat, turtle habitat, coral habitat, whatever, right? And I think just that simple gesture of them scooping up that rubbish reinforces that, oh, my trash could end up out here. Yeah, so I think that, so there's so many levels to this work, with the dolphins and the marine mammals as the central core and motivation of the work we do, but really it's bringing about a new level of awareness about these species and why they're important to us as a country, as a maritime country. We have so much coastline, and our whatever we do on land really affects them out there. And these animals, they can't defend themselves. We need people to help. Um, yeah, and of course also just decision making, making sure that the work that we do enters into decision making, that policymakers do not forget that there are endangered wildlife and fragile marine ecosystems that need to be protected, that need to not be forgotten in policy and decision making. For example, just last week, we ran in an online virtual festival on seagrass. And we had a panel discussion of seagrass experts, people who work in seagrass meadows. And unanimously, everybody agreed that one of the top superpowers of seagrass meadows was food security. And the fact that of such an underrated ecosystem, such as a seagrass meadow, provides a lot of food resource for many people, should not be ignored. The highlight of my work has really been to discover more about these amazing animals, but also to have opened up new platforms for other people who shared my kind of dreams to hone their skills and live out these dreams and ambitions, and at the same time sharing this information to a wider audience in the hopes that people will stop looking at this profession, this line of work as just being a hobby, worthy of a hobby, or just being not important. Maybe working in the finance sector is more important, for example. No, we're trying to change that because we need the environment. And if anything, the pandemic has taught us this year is that we need to be kinder to the planet, because we're all stuck indoors now. Why? Because we didn't treat Mother Earth better, right? So, yeah, so many highlights, and just kind of watching new generation of conservation leaders and conservation researchers develop and grow has really been a huge highlight for me. And of course, discovering new things about the animals and where areas that are important for them, their behavior, how human activities are impacting them, and what we need to do to protect them. Yeah, I guess many highlights. So that's highlights. I hope I answered the question.
Yes.
Before moving on to the question on inclusion, I have a potentially divisive question to ask. Which is your favorite species that you work on?
My favorite species is most people's totally unfavorite species, which is the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise. And this is a species that you and I both saw and worked on in the Gulf of Motama. Was it last year? It's of course, there's so many species. I love them all, but I kind of like to go for the underdog. Why are finless porpoise underdogs? Because they are so elusive and so not obvious when they're in the water. They sort of pop up just a little bit and then they disappear. blink your eye and they're gone. They don't jump, they don't spin, they don't breach, they don't have a dorsal fin. People just forget about them. But what I've realized is that I suspect that finless porpoises are more threatened than we um, care to believe. They're more threatened than we realize because they're often overlooked. Ah, it's just a finless porpoise. You know, if a whale was to get stranded on the beach with a huge rope or fishing net all wrapped around it, people will go up in arms. And for days and days, you might hear about it in the news. But when a finless porpoise washes up on the shore many times, dead, with or without something wrapped around it, like a net or whatever, no one even blinks an eye. But the fact that so many happen to wash up all the time, we have to be concerned. Also, I just think that, just like if I could just link it a little bit um, to perhaps somebody like Danny, uh, if you don't look beyond and if you don't look deeper, you do not see the excitement and the joy of that person. And I think Finless Porpoise is just like that. I've been able to work with them for the last 10 years, and I can see that, I mean, I've been privileged to see them behave in some pretty exciting ways. And even watching them chase after squid. Sometimes we know they're there because we see the squidding appear before we actually see the porpoises. And of course they're cute, and when they do they get startled sometimes if they didn't realize that you're coming right up to them. So they're smart and they're actually quite exciting if one has enough time to spend with them in the field. So definitely, I think they are worth a bit more attention that we give them. And in fact,
Oh,
I'm not a big fan of plush toys. I've never been, even since I was a kid. But the one plush toy I own is of the fitness porpoise. Look at that. Yeah. So they're definitely my favorite because they deserve more attention.
So good.
so what do you think about finless porpoises? Did you do a good job pitching them to you?
I'm trying to learn more.
Yeah.
They sound so underappreciated, like people like me.
Yeah. So I guess on that note, I'm sure you have so many different thoughts about inclusion on so many different levels, but whatever you want to share with us about the need for inclusion and conservation and how you see that maybe improving in the future or what we need to do to improve it would be great.
I must say I've never had any chance or opportunity to work very closely with people who have autism or special needs. But I must say today's experience, and again, just following Danny and your journey, that whatever you post on social media has motivated me to want to try and somehow bring this dimension of the work that I do to people with special needs, to give them that opportunity to experience the ocean. But that aside, I definitely think inclusion is so important. The ocean is there for all of us to enjoy and all of us to extract from. I mean, that's what we do, right? As human beings, we take from the ocean. Everybody loves a beautiful beach to relax on. Everybody loves the ocean to kayak on and go fishing, surf, boogie board, whatever. I think it should be for everybody. But the appreciation for the ocean comes from understanding its value and comes from understanding its importance and its fragility, how fragile it is. So I believe that in order for everyone to be able to enjoy the ocean, we need to definitely be inclusive. We can't be elitist about it. So we need to reach out to everybody to tell them about why conservation is important. Also, what I've learned over the years with conservation work, I love dolphins. I've loved them since I was a kid. But what I've learned is that conservation is about people. It's not so much about the animals. They are the subject for which you do that conservation. They are why you do that conservation. But it's really about people. So to really make a change, we have to involve everybody, from the young kid going to school to my own family, my own friends, to people in the local village community, as well as to policymakers, to government, right? No one should be left out of the process of learning about the ocean, or um, being shared information about how they could do their little part to um, to make a change. Yeah. Uh, I also think that moving forward in a world that is becoming increasingly challenged by so many things, by modernization, development, climate change, etc. Most things are now going online. So many people are disconnected from each other because we're all connected online, right? I think moving forward in this world where people become more and more disconnected from nature, it is even more important to be inclusive in the way we approach conservation. So innovating the way we reach out to people digitally, probably, um, as well as, I think, things like, for example, mental health, I think is being discussed a lot more in the public arena these days. And just as how earlier Danny mentioned that being by the sea calms him and inspires him, I think we undermine and underscore the power of healing that the marine environment or the natural environment could have on a person's well-being and mental well. And I hope through learning and journeying, just watching you guys from afar, through your own journey, that I can learn how to be even more inclusive of people with special needs, and how I could include them in the work that we do here, in the outreach efforts that we have here. I think that's so important, to be able to reach out to people who just have less opportunity in general, to be able to enjoy a public space that is for everybody. Because we can never know the impact of how the ocean could have on a person's well-being, and um, we should give them a chance. We should not discount anybody just because, oh, she's not going to know how to appreciate it, or he's not going to know what's happening. I think people know, we just don't know how to tap into that, right? So thank you for giving me this sort of entry into learning and understanding.
No barking.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think conservation and the future of our planet is everyone's job. It's not just a few of us, but certainly moving forward, I'm inspired to be even more inclusive um, in whatever we do, and probably sharing this message of inclusion as well with my team, and ensuring that we are, as inclusive as possible.
I love your thoughts on reaching to disabled people. It is so meaningful to be included in learning about the world.
And actually, so speaking of that, I think I just had an idea that came to me, and I would like to share it with you guys, if you don't mind. I don't think this has ever happened before in many parts of the world, certainly not in Malaysia, where someone who has a condition like Danny's, who loves the ocean, and he's able to express it through his poetry or whatever. I'm just wondering if in Danny's spare time and yours, if you could record a very short presentation in whatever format you think that would manifest itself, talking about your journey as an autistic person, and your love for the ocean and what it does for you, and how can other people with your condition or who's on the spectrum enjoy the ocean or enjoy nature. And it'd be something that I would love to put on
Unmute.
perhaps MareCet's social media, so that maybe other parents who are out there watching can maybe learn from you and be inspired. That might be a first way for us to broaden the way we do inclusion. But I would like to provide this entryway for other people to and other parents to know what maybe being by the sea or even in a forest by the river could do wonders for their kid who are struggling maybe every day to express themselves or
Yeah.
get clarity and calmness. So if you don't mind,
Are you
I would
thinking-
love for Danny to be able to do something like that. What do you think, Danny?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I will appreciate your time,
Mhm.
and other and so much.
Yeah.
You are truly.
A-N-O. You are truly an ocean hero.
Oh, you are an ocean hero, Danny, for doing this. Really, you're the hero here. I'm just so happy to be able to be a part of it and to participate and to be your first guest. I feel so honored. I must be honest and say this is an interview format that I have never experienced before, but I love it.
Sucks.
He says, shucks.
Sucks.
Ah, shucks.
Sucks.
But I love it. I love it.
You are.
G-R-E-A.
You're
great.
You are great.
Give Tara a big hug after this.
Big
She's so
hug.
awesome.
I love that. I love that.
And
I
hugs.
love that.
Let's give Louise a big hug.
It is a big hug.
Big hug.
I really want to thank Louisa for your time and kind company.
I completely echo that. Thank you, Louisa. And thank you, MareCet, for all the great work you do. And I want to say for our viewers, to learn more about Louisa and MareCet, you can just look at the links we'll put in the description of the video. Really check out their Facebook group and their website and learn more about the wonderful work they're doing in Malaysia.
Inspiring.
Yeah, definitely inspiring.
And I want to thank our viewers again. If you're enjoying this journey with us, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
What we can see with our hearts is more than the sum of its parts. What we can see with our hearts is more than the sum of its parts.
Tara's so awesome, right, Danny? I wish she was my sister.
This is okay. Yes, it's okay.
She's okay. Thanks, Danny.